Well, I'm happy to give an overview on the highlights of the 20th World Conference of Gastrointestinal Cancer, which happened a few weeks ago in Barcelona. I'll go from top to bottom. Let's start with gastric cancer. Josep Tabernero presented the TAX trial. This is a phase 3 randomized controlled trial in patients with advanced gastric cancer who underwent at least 2 prior treatment lines. And these patients were randomized to TAS 102 plus best supportive care versus placebo plus best supportive care. Primary endpoint was overall survival, and this primary endpoint was met. Median overall survival was 5.7 months in the TAS best supportive care arm versus only 3.6 months in the placebo best supportive care arm. Hazard ratio was interesting with 0.69, and this was statistically significant and is a clinically relevant difference. Hence, TAS 102 will become another option in the armamentarium of patients with advanced gastric cancer. Then there were a few interesting sessions on hepatocellular carcinoma. Particularly interesting was the pooled analysis of REACH and REACH2. These are second-line trials in HCC patients who progressed under prior sorafenib. This was a poor prognosis subset with patients with an AFP equal to or above 400. We know that high alpha-fetoprotein levels are associated with poor prognosis. These patients, again, second-line treatment, were randomized to ramucirumab, which is a VEGF2 receptor antibody, versus placebo. And median overall survival with 8.1 versus 5.0 months, with a hazard ratio of 0.69. Hence, this will become another treatment option in patients with advanced hepatocellular carcinoma in second line. I think it's key to mention that for a very long time, for about a decade, for HCC patients, we only had sorafenib. Now we have a variety of other treatment options in these patients. We have lenvatinib as another first-line treatment. We have a variety of second-line treatments, regorafenib, cabozantinib, nivolumab, and now with the REACH2 trial, ramucirumab. Let's move to pancreas. Thierry Conroy presented the PRODIGE 24 trial. This is a trial in patients with pancreatic cancer who were resected and were then randomized to adjuvant gemcitabine versus adjuvant FOLFIRINOX. It's key to mention these are highly selected patients. They all had a postoperative CT scan to exclude distant metastases. They all had a CA99 level below 180. Patients with a CA99 level above 180, even if they had a normal CT scan, were excluded because higher CA99 level reflect micrometastatic disease. And the median overall survival was 54 months in the FOLFIRINOX arm versus 35 months in the gemcitabine arm, with a hazard ratio of 0.64. These results are unheard of. Median overall survival of above 50 months is unbelievably high for patients with a poor prognosis disease such as pancreatic cancer. Hence, there's no doubt in my mind that adjuvant FOLFIRINOX will become the new standard of care, or is the new standard of care in fit patients after resection of pancreatic adenocarcinoma. Finally, let's move to colorectal disease. There was a very interesting late-breaking abstract, the IMBLAZE 370 study by Joanna Bendel. This was a randomized controlled trial, phase 3 trial. It's a 3-arm trial in patients with advanced colorectal cancer who had at least 2 prior treatment lines. All patients, and this is key, had microsatellite stable disease, and these patients were randomized to arm 1, atezolizumab, cobimetinib. Atezolizumab is a PD-L1 antibody, a checkpoint inhibitor. Cobimetinib is a MEK inhibitor. Arm 2 was atezolizumab monotherapy, and arm 3 was regorafenib. And primary endpoint was overall survival. The median overall survival in all 3 arms were anywhere between 7 and 8 months. Median progression-free survival in all 3 arms, 2 months. So there was no difference whatsoever among these treatment options. This was a major disappointment for me. I was very hopeful that the combination of atezolizumab and cobimetinib would improve outcomes in patients with microsatellite stable advanced colorectal cancer, but it didn't. We do have very active drugs in microsatellite unstable advanced colorectal cancer patients. We have pembrolizumab, we have nivolumab, we have combination of nivolumab and ipilimumab. However, again, this is only about 4 or 5% of all advanced colorectal cancer patients do have microsatellite unstable disease, and the vast majority of patients, about 95% in stage 4 colorectal cancer disease, do have microsatellite stable disease, and hence don't have an option to get a checkpoint inhibitor. Finally, the IDEA trial was discussed and presented again. The IDEA trial is a meta-analysis of 6 different randomized controlled trials from 12 different countries comparing 3 versus 6 months of adjuvant chemotherapy in stage 3 colon cancer patients. And this was a non-inferiority trial. Bottom line is low-risk patients, defined as T123N1 disease, can be treated with 3 months of adjuvant chemotherapy, favoring CAPOX over FOLFOX. For high-risk patients, defined as T4N plus or TXN2 disease, it's a bit more complicated. In high-risk patients, 3 months of FOLFOX is inferior to 6 months of FOLFOX, so this is something I wouldn't do. CAPOX 3 versus 6 months of CAPOX in high-risk patients, the results are very, very similar. Bottom line is, vast majority of patients you can treat with 3 months of adjuvant chemotherapy, particularly low-risk patients. Don't treat them with 6 months of adjuvant chemotherapy. You're doing a disservice to these patients, and this is a tremendous benefit for the patients. They have significantly less toxicity, particularly less neuropathy. So again, it's been a fantastic 20th World Congress of Gastrointestinal Cancer in the wonderful city of Barcelona. Thank you, Thomas.